let me ask you something. Have you ever had that moment where you hug a guy you really like, and then later you're lying in bed thinking, did that hug actually do anything for him? Did it spark something? Or was it just a quick, forgettable moment like every other hug he's had? We underestimate hugs. We think they're just a casual, friendly thing. But the truth is, a hug can be one of the most powerful micro moments in attraction. Why? Because it's often the first safe, socially acceptable doorway into physical intimacy. It's a moment where your bodies are close, your energy is shared, and there's an unspoken language being communicated. Now, here's the difference. To some women, a hug is just routine, like a handshake, in and out, nothing special. But for others, same hug becomes a spark he can't stop replaying in his head. One hug makes him forgettable, another makes him addicted. And the question is, what separates those two? I'll tell you what it is. It's the way you respond to the hug. See, most people think about the hug as something he gives you, but the real magic is in how you react. That's what he remembers. That's what leaves him lying in bed at night thinking about you instead of scrolling on his phone. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 powerful ways to respond to a hug so you don't just share a polite little moment, you create an emotional imprint, a memory, something that lingers in his mind long after he walks away. Because if you know how to do this right, trust me, one hug is all it takes for him to crave the next one. When it comes to responding to a hug, the most subtle thing you can do, the thing that most people completely overlook, is what I call the extra second rule. And here's why this matters. When most people hug, it's over before it even begins. It's like this quick in and out gesture, a pat on the back, a polite squeeze, and then boom, they're gone. And sure, it's friendly, it's nice, but it doesn't leave a mark. It doesn't create a moment. But when you give that hug just a tiny bit more time, literally 1 extra second, you create an entirely different experience. Think about it. If he's used to quick, forgettable hugs from people all day long, then suddenly you hug him and it lingers just a heartbeat longer than he expects. Something happens in his brain. He starts to wonder, wait, did that mean something? Was that intentional? Did she feel something too? And that wondering, that curiosity, is exactly what keeps you in his mind. Now, I want you to imagine this. You walk up to him, he opens his arms, and you lean in. The hug happens. It's warm, it's natural, it's nice. But instead of pulling away instantly, you let it breathe, just long enough for him to notice the difference, but not long enough for it to become awkward. That's the sweet spot. That's the magic. That 1 second of stillness communicates comfort, confidence, and connection all at once. It tells him you're not rushing the moment, you're present. And presence is rare, presence is magnetic. The beauty of this technique is that it's so subtle, he can't even fully analyze it. He won't walk away saying, oh, she held that hug exactly 1.10 seconds longer than normal. No, he won't have the language for it. What he'll have is a feeling that something about that hug was different, that it stayed with him. He'll be driving home later, and out of nowhere, he'll think of the way your body felt against his, the warmth of it, and the way you didn't let go too quickly. That memory becomes sticky. It takes root in his mind in a way that casual moments never do. And here's the interesting thing. It's not about being seductive in a big, obvious way. It's about being subtle enough that he doesn't consciously label it, but powerful enough that he feels it. If you try too hard, it comes off as forced. But when you just allow yourself that tiny extension of intimacy, it feels natural. And that's what makes it irresistible. Think about the difference between eating fast food on the go and sitting down for a meal you actually savor. One is over before you've even processed it. The other lingers. You taste it, you remember it. That's exactly what the extra second rule does to a hug. It turns it from fast food into fine dining. And once he's experienced it, he'll start to crave that same connection again and again. Now, of course, the key is balance. If you hold on too long, it crosses into uncomfortable territory. That's not what we're going for. The goal isn't to trap him in a hug. The goal is to make him feel seen, valued, and wanted in a way that's understated but undeniable. 1 second longer says, I'm comfortable with you, I like being here, and that's enough. That's what he'll remember. So the next time you hug him, I want you to think of it not as a throwaway gesture, but as an opportunity. That 1 second is your secret weapon. It's small, it's subtle, but it's unforgettable. Because when he feels that extra beat of closeness, he won't just think of it as a hug, he'll think of it as your hug. And that difference, that's what keeps you on his mind long after you've walked away. If you really want to make a hug unforgettable, if you want it to be the kind of hug that lingers in his memory long after he's gone home, you need to understand the power of touch. I'm not talking about anything dramatic, not anything that screams seduction in neon lights. I'm talking about subtle, intentional, almost invisible touches that carry more emotional weight than you realize. See, anyone can give a standard hug, 2 arms around each other, squeeze, and done. But when you add a gentle touch, something unexpected, something small, it takes that ordinary hug and transforms it into a moment. Think about it from his perspective. He's hugged plenty of people, family, friends, colleagues, people he barely knows, and all those hugs blend together because they're transactional, they're mechanical. But when you run your hand gently across his back while you're hugging him, or you let your fingertips graze his arm as you pull away, you create a sensory memory. His body records it, he feels it in his nervous system, and he doesn't forget it. Men don't always remember the words you said or the outfit you wore, but they always remember how it felt to be touched by you. That gentle stroke, that intentional contact, it bypasses the logical part of his brain and goes straight to the emotional part, and that's the part that makes him crave more. Here's what's fascinating: gentle touches are powerful because they are both innocent and intimate at the same time. No one can accuse you of being over the top because you're not doing anything extreme. But at the same time, he feels something extra in that moment. He feels chosen, like that touch wasn't for anyone else. It was for him, and that's what makes it unforgettable. Now, picture this scenario. You hug him goodbye, and as you pull away, your hand lingers on his shoulder just long enough to leave a trace of warmth. You don't need to stare into his eyes like you're in a movie scene. You don't need to say anything grand. That one simple gesture says everything. It says, "I'm comfortable with you." It says, I wanted just a little more of you before I let go." That's what makes him walk away wondering about you, replaying that moment over and over in his head, wondering if you meant more than you showed. The beauty of this is that men are often starved for gentle, caring touch. The world doesn't give it to them. They don't get it from their jobs. They don't get it from their male friends. They don't get it from strangers, which means when you give him that softness, that tenderness, he feels it 10 times more deeply than you realize. It's not just physical, it's emotional. It tells him he's safe with you, that you see him as more than just a body, more than just a casual connection. That kind of message doesn't leave his mind easily. And remember, less is more. You don't need to turn it into a performance. The lighter the touch, the more powerful it feels. A simple brush of your fingertips can light up his imagination far more than anything overt, because subtlety forces him to fill in the blanks. And when he's filling in the blanks, guess who he's thinking about? You. So the next time you're wrapped in his arms, don't let it end as just another hug. Add that gentle touch. Brush your hand across his back. Let your fingers trail along his arm, or place a warm palm against his shoulder as you step away. It takes half a second, but it leaves a mark that lasts for days. And when he's lying in bed that night, when he's sitting at work the next day, when he's lost in thought in the middle of the week, it's not the hug he'll remember, it's the way you touched him. That right there is how you make yourself unforgettable. There's something about the human voice when it's close, soft, almost secret, that makes the moment unforgettable. And when you're hugging someone you're attracted to, one of the most powerful things you can do is lean in just enough to let your words become private. I call this whisper energy, not because you have to literally whisper, but because it's about speaking in a way that feels like it's meant only for him. When you do this during a hug, you turn an ordinary embrace into a deeply personal experience that he'll replay in his mind long after. Think about it. Most hugs are silent. People hug, maybe laugh awkwardly, maybe mutter a quick bye, and then they separate. But if you take that chance while you're close to him to say something quietly in his ear, suddenly the hug becomes more than physical. It becomes emotional, even slightly electric. You don't need to say anything dramatic. Something as simple as, "It's really good to see you," carries a weight when you say it softly in his ear that it just doesn't have if you blurt it out after you've stepped back. That softness, that closeness creates intimacy. Here's the interesting part: when you speak close to someone's ear, they don't just hear your words, they feel them. Your breath, your tone, the vibration, it all hits differently. And because it's so close, so private, it creates a sense of secrecy, like you've just shared something that no one else in the world got to hear. That's the kind of moment that makes him feel special. That's the kind of moment that leaves him walking away with a smile, asking himself, what did she mean by that? Imagine this scenario. You're hugging him after a long day apart, your arms around him, and instead of pulling away silently, you lean in just enough to say, I miss this. Do you realize what that does to him? Suddenly, he's not just in a hug, he's in a moment. He's not just holding you, he's holding someone who made him feel wanted, who made him feel appreciated. And men, don't forget that. That phrase, just a couple of words, will loop in his head on repeat, because it wasn't said across the room, it wasn't said casually, it was said softly, intimately, like it was just for him. The magic of whisper energy is that it's a little bit ambiguous. You don't need to spell everything out. In fact, the less you explain, the more his imagination takes over. If you simply say, this feels nice, while you're in that embrace, you leave the door open for him to wonder. Did you mean the hug felt nice, or being close to him felt nice? That uncertainty, that delicious gray area, is what makes him obsess, because he'll want to know. And the only way for him to find out is to come closer again. And this is important. You don't have to reserve whisper energy for serious or romantic lines. Playfulness works too. You could hug him and tease, I'm stealing your warmth, or you give the best hugs. Even something lighthearted in that private, close space feels more personal than if you'd said it in normal conversation. The context changes everything. The point is, this whisper energy takes something normal and elevates it. It transforms a hug into a memory. It's that little secret you plant in his mind, something he carries with him when he leaves. Because words said out loud can be forgotten, but words spoken softly in that moment, they echo. They live in the silence of his thoughts. And when he's lying in bed at night, when he's thinking about you, he won't just remember your touch. He'll hear your voice, soft, close, meant only for him. That's what makes the hug unforgettable. That's what makes you unforgettable. One of the most overlooked parts of a hug is how you end it. Everyone focuses on the beginning, the arms wrapping around the closeness, but what really sticks in his memory is how you let go. Most people separate in the most boring way possible. Quick release, polite smile, maybe a see you later, and it's done. Forgettable. But if you want to stay on his mind, the exit from the hug is where you can inject a little bit of magic, a little spark of playfulness that makes him crave more. I call this the playful pullback. Here's what it looks like. You hug him, and instead of pulling away like a stranger who just brushed past him at the grocery store, you let the separation be part of the flirtation. As you release, you hold onto his arm for a second, or you let your hand slide down his sleeve. Keeping contact just a moment longer, maybe you pull back slowly with a smile that lingers like you're not quite ready to leave. Or if you want to add humor, you can give a little laugh and say something like, I wasn't ready to let go yet. That one playful line, paired with the timing of your pull back, will stick in his mind far more than the hug itself. Why? Because it shows personality, it shows confidence. It shows that you're not afraid to inject a little fun into the moment. Men remember women who make them feel. And playfulness is one of the most addictive feelings you can create. When you add that tease, that sense of, I enjoyed this more than I'm letting on, it plants a seed of curiosity. He starts to wonder, is she flirting with me? Did she mean more by that? And that wondering is exactly what keeps you circling in his thoughts. The playful pull back works because it breaks the script. Everyone else he hugs ends it the same way, fast, forgettable, polite. But you give him a smile, a look, a tease, maybe a lingering touch on his arm, and suddenly the ending of the hug becomes as memorable as the hug itself. It's like the final note of a song. If the ending is powerful, it echoes in his mind long after the music stops. And here's the beauty of it, you don't have to overthink it. The energy you bring to the pull back is more important than the exact move you make. If you're warm, smiling, and playful, he's going to feel that energy in his chest. If you hold his gaze for a second longer after the hug, that's intimacy. If you step back and tease him with a line, that's flirtation. If you let your fingers linger on his arm, that's subtle connection. Each one creates a different kind of memory, but they all work because they show intention. Let me give you a simple example. You hug him goodbye after a date. Instead of quickly detaching, you let your hand slide down his arm as you step back, and with a mischievous smile you say, okay, now you're making it hard for me to leave. Do you know what happens in that moment? You instantly reframe the hug as something meaningful. You've told him, without explicitly saying it, that being close to him feels good. And that's going to replay in his head over and over later. So don't waste the ending of a hug. Think of it as the encore, the last impression, the little detail that makes the whole moment stick. The playful pullback doesn't just close the hug, it opens the door for the next one. And that's exactly what you want, to leave him wanting more, smiling to himself, and already craving the moment when he gets to hold you again. At the end of the day, a hug is not about where you place your hands, how tight you squeeze, or how long it lasts. Those are mechanics. What really matters is the feeling you leave behind. Because here's the truth. People don't remember moments in detail. They remember how those moments made them feel. And when you understand that, you realize that your goal with every hug isn't to be perfect. It's to create an emotional experience that sticks. Think back to the hugs in your own life. You probably can't remember the exact way someone held you or how long it lasted, but you definitely remember the hugs that made you feel safe or desired or deeply connected. That's the memory you carry. And that's the same for him. He's not going to be analyzing your arm placement. He's not going to be counting the seconds. He's going to remember how it felt to be in your arms, the energy you carried into that hug, and the emotional imprint it left on him. So ask yourself, what do you want him to feel when he hugs you? Do you want him to feel comforted, like he can exhale when he's near you? Do you want him to feel excited, like there's a spark he can't ignore? Do you want him to feel desired, like he's the only man in the room when you're close? The beauty is that you get to decide, because the energy you bring into that embrace, the warmth of your body language, the softness of your touch, the smile you give as you pull away, that's what dictates the feeling he walks away with. And here's the secret, you don't even need to overdo it. Sometimes the simplest shift in your energy changes everything. If you're truly present in that hug, not rushing, not distracted, but actually there with him, he'll feel that presence. If you let yourself soften instead of stiffening up, he'll feel that too. If you hug him like you mean it, even if it's brief, he'll carry that with him, because presence is rare. We live in a world where people are constantly rushing through life, distracted, half there. So when you give someone your full presence, even for 5 seconds, it's unforgettable. Let me paint a picture. You're hugging him goodbye after spending time together. Instead of a quick distracted squeeze, you lean in with warmth, your body relaxed, and you breathe him in just a little. As you let go, you smile. Not a polite smile, but one that feels genuine, one that says, I really enjoyed being with you. You might even add a soft line like, I like being around you. That's not heavy. It's not dramatic, but it's powerful. Why? Because you left him with a feeling of being appreciated, desired, and valued. And that's what he's going to replay when he's lying in bed that night. The thing about feelings is they bypass logic. He might not be able to explain why he keeps thinking about you, why that hug replayed in his mind during the day. But that's exactly the point. Attraction isn't logical, it's emotional. And when you're the one who creates those emotions in him, you become unforgettable. So don't think of a hug as a routine gesture. Think of it as your chance to leave him with the exact feeling you want him to associate with you. Make him feel safe. Make him feel seen. Make him feel excited. Because long after the hug is over, long after he's driven away or walked into his house, that feeling will stay with him. And that's what will keep you on his mind long after the moment has passed. So let's bring this all together. A hug might seem small, but it can be one of the most powerful tools for creating unforgettable connection. It's not just about wrapping your arms around him. It's about how you respond. That 1 extra second tells him you're comfortable and present. That gentle touch on his back or arm makes the moment linger in his body. That soft whisper in his ear turns a simple hug into a private exchange that feels intimate and personal. The playful pullback leaves him smiling, teasing, and wanting more. And most importantly, the energy you bring, the feeling you leave him with, that's what keeps you alive in his mind long after you've walked away. Because here's the truth, men don't stay up at night replaying a hug because of how it looked. They replay it because of how it made them feel. And when you master these small, subtle shifts, you transform an ordinary hug into an unforgettable memory. You're no longer just another hug. You become the hug, the one he can't stop thinking about, the one that makes him crave your presence again and again. So the next time you see him, don't underestimate that embrace. Don't rush it. Don't treat it like a routine. Use it as your moment, your chance to create a spark that stays with him. Because if you do this right, trust me, he won't just remember the hug. He'll remember you. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button because it helps more women see these strategies. And don't forget to subscribe for more advice on love attraction and creating deep connection. I want to hear from you too. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's one thing you do during a hug that makes it special? I'll be reading through, and who knows, you might just inspire the next video.